Alright, then here we are. Welcome everyone to a yet another new season of WR, this time round season 19. And here we are, an hour sooner than we were last time round for PC Tier 4. I'll be your host for tonight. My name is Mit Sky, and joining me in the commentary box, a new face this season, it's Yvadar.
Hello everyone. Pretty interesting seasons. I'm usually a driver, so.
Yeah, last season you were indeed driving in this very tier. What can you tell us about the level and the standards of the drivers in this tier?
I mean, I am usually competing against them, so they're kind of like my pace. Like they're very quick drivers, obviously, tier 4. Pretty in the middle of the competition. They're all really fast, I believe. I don't know all the people. I know like 15 drivers of here. But yeah, El Rey Guri is the interesting phase that I'm looking at because he's usually a streamer.
Yeah, by the judging of things, we have quite a few stand-in drivers tonight. For Red Bull, I think some changes were made. So let me just list what I have listed here. Although I'm pretty sure. Oh no, wait, it was a switch with the racing bulls. Anyways, for Red Bull, we have Jan Sverdlik and Herman Polyakov. For Mercedes, we have Kevin West, Gav Genetics, and Jack Humphreys. Ferrari, Giovanni Gialiotto is a reserve driver tonight, and Joel Lindstrom, also reserve driver. McLaren sees Takubi and Marvin Golm. Marvin also stand-in. Aston Martin sees Miska Heikkila and Scenario 7, both reserve drivers. And then Steven Vaso and Nicolino are in the Alpine. Dennis Langrock joins in with Meow for Williams. And then Sam, who's not driving tonight, that is George, I believe, together with Ben Shawley tonight. Kick Sauber, Elko, and Mr. Pike. And then finally Haas, stand-in tonight, Charles Sutton and El Rey Guiri. Filling up that final slot. So I believe we do have 20 drivers tonight, Jivadar, but quite a few stand-ins for the opening round this season. And as some of you have probably already seen, we're starting the Circuit of the Americas.
Yeah, a lot of teams competing here. We've got... Oh, okay. A Virtual. I am a little bit biased. You can tell why. It's in my name, but, you know. We got Shazoo, NLR, TGF Mr. Pike, who's insanely underrated, by the way. I've raced against him. Dennis is a phase that I'm looking at because he's ridiculously quick. I don't know why he's in tier 4. I think he's tier 3 pace, not gonna lie, but we'll see. And an interesting phase, TES, actually. Jack Humphreys is in this. I did not expect him to be in tier 4.
Yeah, if we judge by the people that we've had here last season, I'm not sure if Jack was with us and Herman were with us, but I have seen them before. Meow was with us last season. Dennis Langrock was as well. He's quite quick indeed. Kevin West was with us last season. Charles Sutton was with us last season, which at times was very, very strong. And there are times did not come to fruition, but mostly new faces here tonight, Yuvadar, and I think most of the grids also the drivers that you've raced with, correct?
Yeah, indeed. You know, looking at the grid, it's all familiar faces to me, apart from 2-3 drivers. Like the only ones I don't really know are Marvin Golm for McLaren and Giovanni Galiotto for Ferrari. Those are the only two I don't actually know. Everyone else I'm familiar with.
All right, fair enough. Well, before we talk a little bit more about the drivers, let's take a quick look at the calendar so we can tell you at least a little bit about the races that we'll have this season. We start off the season here tonight, November 11th, at the Circuit of the Americas before having, let's see, we will have 5 races in a row before the season break. So we start here. Next week we move on to Singapore, then is Vegas for round 3. First race in December will be at Great Britain, Silverstone, and then before the Christmas and holiday break we will go to Zandvoort in the Netherlands. And then after the break No, sorry, we still have Hungary before the break, so 6 races before the break, and then in January 4 more races: China, Canada, Austria, and your season finale in Brazil, the lovely circuit of Interlagos near Sao Paulo. So quite a stacked calendar. Out of the calendar for you, Yuvidar, which two races stand out for you?
Texas is usually a track that I particularly like. Vegas is gonna be an absolute fireworks at the top because it's such a long straight that you can burn your entire battery and go from 7th all the way to 1st on the last lap, basically. Like, particularly Vegas. I don't see any other track that would be as interesting. Austria also. Brazil, sure. Most downforce related tracks are not gonna be as interesting in my opinion. Still gonna be competitive, of course, just not as big of a show as these tracks with super long straights. Could guess why.
Yeah, indeed, Vegas, the track with the longest straight. I'm not sure if it beats Baku though, but definitely a very long straight with a lot of overtaking opportunities. I'm very fond of having the Circuit of the Americas in the calendar and have it as a season opener for tonight. That is definitely going to produce fireworks. Silverstone, definitely one that should always be on the calendar too. And usually Hungary and Canada, along with Austria, also always deliver. To be honest, I can't see any bad race on here. Personally, not too fond of Vegas myself, although for the F1 24 game racing usually is quite interesting there. But the other races and having your season finale in Sao Paulo, I think that is just the best way to end it.
Yeah, I'm not that big of a fan of the game so far, but it's okay. Singapore round 2 is gonna be. I can already tell you, at least 4 people are just not gonna turn up because they don't like the track. I can already guess that.
Well, it is definitely going to be a very hectic race, but that, of course, is going to happen next week. In the meantime, I see the drivers are readying up. We have 22 people in the lobby. 2 of us are spectating, so I believe that everyone is in. We'll have a few minutes before we will be able to go underway, as we already have the countdown that has just started. Did you drive on this track last season, Yuvadar?
I wasn't here last season. Oh no, I was. I actually only did Austria and then just quit because the game was depressing. State. I'm not even kidding. Like, usually I like the F1 games. This game was just not mine at the start. Like now, since I've gotten used to it, it's obviously a lot better. But at the start, it was so bad compared to everyone else. Honestly, I got the game like early July, so that was like a month after everyone. But the handling changes definitely helped it in a healthy way. But it's still nowhere near the state that it should be, considering the resources that EA and Codemasters have. But we'll see what F125 brings in a year or so. Actually, it's like half a year, never mind.
Yeah, well, of course, we'll have to wait quite some time for that to happen. Also, a lot of new drivers will be playable then with all the shifts that are happening in the real F1 world. But in the meantime, we have successfully loaded into the game. So quickly going to change to our in-game view so we can see what's happening here. 19 drivers that we have, as already mentioned, quite a few stand-ins. But out of the 19 drivers, Yuvidar, which couple drivers should we keep an eye on in quali?
At the top, I usually expect Dennis Langrock, of course. I am a bit of a glazer, but hey, it doesn't help it. Meow, obviously both TTMs, always strong, every track basically. Miska, I'm actually faster than him. Spoiler. Evershow, guys, of course. I am definitely not biased, guys. I don't know what you mean. Who else? Charles Sutton from Shazoo. And then Jack Humphreys, because, you know, just TES stuff. You love to see TES in this. Even though I'm pretty sure they only have like tier 3 and tier 2 drivers, but that's okay.
Yeah, judging by the people that we've seen last season as well, I think Meow can get very close to that top 5. But I do think, as you also mentioned, Jack Humphreys might be just a little bit a step above that together with Dennis Langrock. Also expecting a lot from Charles Sutton in qualifying. Hopefully he can continue that in the race later on tonight. We're currently looking at El Reguiri in the Haas, who will be the first driver to set a lap time with one of their racing bulls not too far behind, and that will be either Gregory Russell or Ben Shawley. But yeah, for now, gives us a little bit of time to talk about the track as well, so you have a little bit of an idea of what's all going on. So Circuit of the Americas, 5.5 kilometers long, 3.4 miles, 20 turns in total that we have, with 2 DRS zones, one the start-finish straight and one the back straight, which leaves around, let's see, I have it noted down, before turn 11 is the detection zone. Then you have the hairpin and the zones from turn 11 to turn 12. But here we go then. Let's go on board with our Greery and Juvidar. Take it away.
Right, I'm not even spectating him. Alright. Going through turn 1, braking after the black bar, hitting the curb to get a little bit of a rotation. Avoids the inside for whatever reason. Goes down to medium ERS usage. Usage of the curves, just full on flat out through this S section. 3 is just slight lift. Oh, never mind, it's not that small of a lift. .899 split, which is not particularly great, but it's a very good banker. Through in towards, I don't know the name of the corner. I don't know the track as particularly well. I do not have it written still. Anyways, he's using overtake here just to maximize the straight line speed. Goes down to about 20%. Using a hot lap here at the 100 meter board. Cut as much as you can get away with. It's ridiculous how much you can actually cut off that left-hander and still be on a valid lap. But through the last couple of corners of sector 3, powering down to the very long right hanger, which I believe is counted as 3 corners, but I'm not sure about that. Misses the curb a little bit on the inside, which will lose him like half a tenth or so. Not that big of a deal. Up towards the line to 30.997. It's a pretty good start to the session for El Rey.
Yeah, pretty good start, but to me it is Joel Lindstrom who goes 2/10 quicker. Though we did see El Reguiri did take a lovely turn 12, taking a lot of inside curb, and there we have him. Dennis Langrock, the man we spoke of before. Fastest lap time so far, the 1:35.13. That is quite the banker to watch out for.
And
Charles Sutton has crashed out.
Oh my god, how do... Okay, well, he'll have an interesting race, for sure.
Looks like he just spun out on the exit of turn 20 and then put it into the pit wall on the left. It's a very sad way to start the season, and I don't think, well, he didn't get a lap in at all, so it might have been just the in lap for him. We have more drivers still on a hot lap. Let's see if we can catch any of those drivers. And Nicolino has invalidated. Herman Polyakov is currently in sector 3. Just 2 more corners left to go. First turn 19. Hard dive to the left. Just managed to stay on course there because he did go off the track a little bit with a couple of wheels, but not with all. And here he comes then across the line. And that is enough for a P7. Took a little bit for that to register, but it's in for now. And with more drivers still coming to the line, so far Dennis Langrock has quite a margin.
Yeah, I mean, Dennis is in P1 by like 3 tenths, kind of would have guessed. We'll see where Jack puts it though. Using a little bit of overtake here, keeping it in hot lap. Through the S section. Clipping the inside curves. Pretty nice rotation so far. And it's a 0.8. Pretty solid. Goes down to medium only for this section. It's really interesting on this game that a lot of drivers are using very different ERS usages. Like everyone is using different usages. Some are using medium for the S section, some are using medium only for the slow speed corners. It's really interesting, the strategies on this game. and in the races as well with the new ERS system. He does not cut it as much as he could have. It's a 0.2 split. That is not too bad, but I think that will put him like P3. It's not been as great of a lap so far, but he does have quite a bit more ERS than others for the end of the lap. Cutting that really nicely. And over the last corner, braking at the white line and across the line. It's only P7. Wow.
Yeah, I
Okay,
don't
Jan
think...
goes.
Oh,
Jan
Jan actually went quicker.
Yeah, I did not expect that.
Yeah,
Right.
Jan was not one of the drivers that we were currently spectating, but that managed to put his car on third. The time roundabout that we were expecting Jack Humphreys to do, he took a really nice turn 19 there, but sadly not enough so far to put him quite far up there. As far as the other grid goes, the only driver currently on a hot lap is Miska Haikila. And then we have quite a few drivers already on their out laps for this second run. So I'm not sure if Miska already did a lap that was invalidated or if this is their first run. But in Sector 1 with a 25-0, it's already a few tenths down to what Jack Humphreys did on his lap.
Yeah, I believe he did not set a lap. So this is actually his first lap. But yeah, well, I think in his turn 1 he missed the apex, which definitely lost him significant time. Like, he's like 2 tenths down compared to everyone else.
Well, we're about to find out how competitive his second sector time is, and that is a 1:01.0. So now he comes once again awfully close to that lap time that Jack was able to do. But from Jack onwards, it's still 5.5 tenths before you move on to Dennis Langrock's time. And I think it'll be only fitting as soon as he starts his hot lap that we should go on board with him, see how close he can get. But let's get first a lovely view of that turn 19, which Miska does take quite nicely. Not too much risk yet, but at least a clean run all the way through as the Mercedes up ahead is going to start his lap. And Miska comes round in a P3, nicely rounded off. And yeah, given the time that he lost in Sector 1, not a bad lap whatsoever.
Yeah, definitely. Could be like a high 0.4 without the mistake in Sector 1. So definitely a lot of time still in the lap.
Well, in the meantime, we are watching Dennis Langrock. Let's see how good that's first set. That's at 24.7. So, see, that is 3 tenths quicker than Miska was already able to do. So it shows how much time that Miska can still improve in Sector 1. Although Dennis is about 16 thousandths down on his own sector time so far.
Yeah, but it's also a matter of just people using different wings. Because Dennis, like on his banker, he's got a high 0.6 in the first sector. Joel, who is right behind him, is with a 25.1. So that's half a second in Sector 1. And then he just gains it back on the straights.
Well, now in the middle sector, he has gained about half a tenth. Is 40 thousandths up on his own personal best. Already shows how good that first lap was, especially now that the track's already improving a little bit. We'll go on board once more with a triple right-hander before moving into the final 2 corners. And I think here... Oh, he invalidates. Steered in just a little bit too early. But good news for Dennis is that he can immediately boot that car back into the pits and try again later. As in the meantime, Mr. Pike... No, it's actually Giovanni Gialiotto who has set the fastest lap time. He goes 12 thousandths quicker. But I was just seeing what Mr. Pike was doing because he also managed to set a 24.7 in that first sector. And he's now about a tenth quicker as well.
That's pretty nice. I've been looking at Herman as well, because Herman is half a second up, and he's currently on an absolute flyer. He's on for pole position. We'll see if he can capitalize on that in the last sector and not bottle. By the way, because this is short quali and we are restarting after this, everyone, well, at least I hope everyone is using 4 sets. So you can always just abort one and just full send. And there we go. Herman P1, clear by a tenth as well. That is pretty nice.
Yeah, that was very quick all the way through, and I think that was about a tenth, maybe 2/10 even quicker in that middle sector, and even that last sector looked pretty clean from Herman. Perhaps some of the other drivers will still be able to improve, but I think Nicolino already did a lap. Joel Lindstrom didn't do yet. He was actually 3/10 up as well in his own lap time, but he has invalidated through sector 2 or 3, so he will be diving it into the pits as well. As for Jens Sverdlik, he is currently in Sector 1 on for a hot lap, but now also invalidates as he turns left, so no more competitive laps coming through from him this run. Elko also diving it into the pit lane, and Jack Humphreys was on a lap, as he now invalidates also in turn 11. Ben Shawley is also invalidated, and then we just have Takubi left, but he's currently very slow out there on track. So I don't think anyone is currently flying out there.
Yeah, I'm not sure if Jack... No, he wouldn't. He would just go into the pits, okay. I don't think anyone is on a fly as well. Yeah, we're gonna be waiting a bit for the final runs. By the way, I am a Herman Polyakov Glazer, so, I'm pretty happy with him so far. There's a clear gap though, like, the top 5 is all a low 0.5, and then everyone else is on a 0.8 and slower. That is a 3/10 gap, nearly 3/10 between 5th and 6th. Like, if you need to improve your position, you're gonna need to improve by more than 3/10. That is insane of a gap. Dennis is actually on a flyer now. We'll see what he can do.
Yeah,
if he doesn't match... Yeah.
And that is invalidation once more. He did go with the fastest first sector time of all with a 24.6, but that invalidation means that this is worth absolutely nothing. On the other hand, Marvin Golm is on a lap so far. Is already in sector 2, did not see his first sector time, but he'll be the next driver that's going to settle up.
5.7. 0.776. It's a pretty solid first sector.
Let's see how Marvin continues down on a long back straight before breaking into turn 12, where we see the drivers take a lot of risks, cutting it quite decently, but Marvin does not cut it as much as the other drivers do, and despite him being a 10th and a half up, he's still about 3/10 down if he wants to set the fastest lap time here. So I think he needs to go a little bit more aggressive on turn 12 if he wants to improve a bit more. And further in the distance, we see some clouds appearing, but that's not something that we have to worry for now. With just 3 minutes and about 35 seconds left on the clock, as Marvin wobbles a little bit there, and yeah, indeed, he decides to abort. He knows he can go quicker, and if he continues now, he won't be able to improve anymore.
Yeah, Kevin Views, though, starting another flying lap through the first sector. Sweeps to the right. It's a 0.9, so he's down on his time. Well, pretty much matching, but the thing is, he doesn't really have time. If he wants to go into the pits and change, he does not have the time for that, so he either has to nail this or try again on the same set. Ooh, Mr. Pike! Where's that come from? Well, that is a very, very surprising provisional pole. Just straight up retires. He knows he can't do better than that.
No, and in the meantime, we saw Giovanni Galeotto invalidate in turn 11. It's a bit sad considering that he was up just a little bit in that first sector, and also in the second sector he was up. So there is improvement to be made. It feels like he's trying to hurry up, but I don't think he will have time if he enters the pit lane now. You can't see because of the yellows
No.
what the time exactly is, but with 2:10 left on the clock, he won't have time to do yet another lap. It feels like he's still going to attempt to do so, but there will not be time for Giovanni to do yet another lap. Kevin West currently, well, just went for an improvement, so that should mean that his qualifying run is over. All the other drivers currently on an out lap, and one of the Astons is the first one in line to go for a lap. So that will be either Miska. No, it will be his teammate Scenario 7. So let's go over to him. Currently only did a 31.5, so is 1.1 seconds off of a provisional pole position. But he's about to round turn 20 and go for his final lap.
He's gonna need a scenario 7 for real to get back in this qualifying session though. Through turn 1, after the black box. A little bit wobbly on exit, but it's fine. Goes over the curbs, keeping it in hot lap. Taking as much of the curves as they can, or never mind, cannot. Yeah, that is definitely not gonna be a particularly great lap now.
It's a big slide indeed coming out from Scenario 7. We saw him just do that now in turn 11 too. But I think we saw the same happen in turn 20 when he was about to get the lap started. So it seems like he's struggling a little bit to keep that car on the road properly when he's pushing. And we see it here as well. Turn 12, it does not look smooth and he has to overcorrect quite a bit. Despite that, still about 2.5 tenths quicker than his previous fast lap. But that will not... Ooh, that was a very wide line as he now enters the final stages of the third sector. But yeah, not enough of improvement to really go for a more competitive lap time. On the other end, though, El Reguiri, want to see what he's been able to do. He's about a 10th down as we now have the flag fallen. So Mr. Pike, Giovanni Gialiotto, and Kevin West won't be sending any lap times. And it looks like Scenario has come into the pit lane despite him being on improvement. Must have been track limits then, but here he goes. And El Reguiri, very big slide on the exit of turn 19. But now then, final corner. Very clean here. Comes across the line, but that's only enough for B12.
Yeah, everyone is currently improving. That will be very interesting to see who's gonna come out on top in this qualifying session. Mr. Pike's provisional pole does not look like it will stand for very long. Stefan Vasso has invalidated, unfortunately. The only one who can stop him is Herman. Oh, a 10.5 up. That is big. Then it only goes up to P3. Nikolin has invalidated. It's only Herman Polyakov that can stop Mr. Pike taking a very safe last corner because he knows the lap is enough for provisional pole.
Yeah, and it is enough indeed. It's pole position for Herman Polyakov then. I believe that was a 0.3, so it's about half a tenth to a tenth quicker. And here we have the confirmation. 44 thousandths Herman Polyakov is quicker. He takes pole position for the first race of the season. And joining him on the first grid will be Mr. Pike. Then second row, Dennis Langrock and Miska Haikila very closely bunched together. Actually, the top round about 5 in just over a tenth as Stefan Vasso rounds that off. Then, furthermore, we have Giovanni Gialiotto, P6, followed by Alku, Nicolino, Joel Lindstrom, and Jack Humphreys to round off their top 10. As Marvin Golm, Jans Furley, Kevin West, Meow, Tikubi, Ben Shawley, El Reguiri, Gregory Russell, and then the last few names I was unfortunately unable to spot for now. But that means that we have a little bit of time to talk about the qualifying session. It's currently absolutely pouring down there. But we have to take a restart. And I think quite a few drivers are going to be very happy with that, Jivodar.
Yeah, I mean, obviously everyone in the top 10, I believe, is pretty happy with the qualifying. Everyone outside of that, probably not too pleased with the result, but obviously points are given out in the race, and whoever's a race merchant in this will thrive in the next 28 laps. It's still going to be dynamic weather after the restart, so hopefully no rain, because most drivers, I don't think like that. I quite like the rain compared to others, but It's just very unrealistic. That's one of the key points on this game. Rain is just very unrealistic. It's like 5 seconds quicker than what it should be in real life. That is pretty, I wouldn't say bad, just weird. Because it feels weird to drive in the wet. Like in the dry it could be okay, but in the wet you expect to have a lot less grip, but it doesn't. Like you still have plenty. It's very weird.
Well, I guess we already have those upgraded Pirelli Extreme wet tires that you very rarely see in the real F1 racing scene, but here online we see it just a tad more. Currently waiting for the final two drivers to retire before we can go back into the lobby, and as you mentioned, Jivodar, get ready for the 28 lap race that we're going to see in a moment, so we have quite a few minutes to still prepare us for that. Just something that I want to mention, I did see in the Discord chat that Annie mentioned that he's very sad to be ill because he did a 29.7 yesterday when he was online. If he did get that lap time, he would have had pole position by half a second.
Jan is absolutely enjoying live drifting, by the way. That's something funny.
Looks like the drivers have now all successfully retired from the session, so we'll just be waiting for all that loading to end. And we just see Maximilian in the chat is confirming that he did set those lap times, so I think he will be absolutely kicking himself that he can't be joining us tonight because that pole position was not too close to the lap times that he was able to do. And by a judge of it, Steven, who was in P5, is not too happy with his lap time either. Was expecting the track to be a little bit quicker, but the reasons for that, at least unknown for us now, but the points, as you also mentioned, Ivodar, will be distributed at the end of the race rather than our qualifying session. So just real quick for you, Jivodar, what do you think our top three is going to be?
That is. I think Herman would win, Langrock in P2, and I need to take a look at the qualifying grid. I have no idea who's gonna be actually starting in P4. Miss. I am an Evershow fan. Who would have guessed why? I'm rooting for a Elko podium. Herman wins, Dennis P2, and Elko in P3. That is my predictions.
Alright, that sounds quite good. Well, for myself, I do think it will be quite a close battle between Dennis Langrock and Herman Polyakov. I do think that Dennis will get the upper edge on that, and then top three rounding off. I do think that Jack Humphrey is going to come up a little bit more. Was only P7 or 8 in qualifying session, but I think in the race he might be able to improve a little bit more. If not, then I think that P3 will go to Steven Vaso. But for now, we're just waiting for everyone to ready up once more, for the grid to be set and for the settings to be changed. As you all know, in this game iteration, we have to take breaks in between our sessions because we need to make sure that the slipstream effect is turned back on, which we do turn off in qualifying session to not change those lap times all too much. And when that is turned back on and when we're loaded in, I think in about 4 to 5 minutes we'll be able to move into the game and see all the action for the races here tonight.
Yeah, I mean, for quite a while now, there's just been this insanely OP slipstream effect in qualifying. That's why we're doing ultimately ghosting on in qualifying, because it's just so insane. If you start your lap behind someone, you would think you'd get dirty air in the corners, but you just don't, and you gain like 6/10 all throughout every straight, accumulated. It's like more than half a second, which is just insanely OP.
Yeah, the effect is indeed very, very powerful, so I'm glad that we've at least tried to mitigate that effect in qualifying session, and then in the race we can keep it as is and have fights going on all the way down to the wire, because do expect some overtakes to be happening for that race win in your final lap, somewhere in between turn 11 and 12, or perhaps even just after turn 12. But after that, who leads after, I believe that is going to be turn 15, that will be your race winner for tonight, because in the triple right-hander and then the two lefts, I don't think any more overtakes will be made there. But we've got quite a long race ahead, 28 laps. We'll likely see just one pit stop. But when it comes to tire strategies, Ivudar, what do you expect the drivers to do?
Around 15 people are definitely gonna go hard medium. It's just the meta strat on this game for most tracks. Some people could go spicy, could go in the mediums and try to get track position and obviously undercut the entire field, work together, and basically do what TES did in the E series. I believe it was like 2 days ago. Like they just undercut the entire field and work together to create a gap. It could happen, but most people are definitely going to be starting on the hards, as it is the best tire choice simply for the start of the race. Going on the mediums is just a little bit of a risk for most people, too much of a risk to take, but we'll see. It can work. We've seen it. I've seen it work in the past. Could work now.
Yeah, I think especially for some drivers starting more towards the back of the grid, Charles Sutton in particular might go for that offset strategy, was to start all the way from the back after that crash out in the qualifying session. Just before we talk a little bit more about the drivers, just some extra information about the Circuit of the Americas on top of the information I already gave you earlier on. We've been racing here now for 12 years already. First race in 2012. And one of the Herman Tilke tracks, although I must say one of my more favorite tracks that were designed by the Tilke company. And of course, the Circuit of the Americas has already cemented itself as one of the better racetracks that we have in the United States. Although for F1, I think it's fair to say that this is the best track currently on that calendar. And then finally, the last bit of information we need to know, your pit lane time delta, 18.6 seconds.
Yeah, it's quite. I mean, it's not that long of a pit lane compared to other tracks that have 20 plus seconds. So it undercut is gonna be quite powerful. Like a 1 lap undercut is worth about 2 seconds, and we'll see what ultimately happens in the race with the strategies. I believe, I'm not too sure though, but you don't really want to be leading this race because the DRS effect is just so strong that you cannot break out of the DRS. The entire field is going to be one DRS train probably, unless there's a crash, because the slipstream and DRS effect is just so overpowered. You gain like half a second in one straight if you have DRS. It's impossible to actually break that DRS gap. And even if it happens, like something crazy in turn 1 or anything, they can just work together and close that gap back down in towards the 1 second DRS window. It's going to be really interesting what's ultimately going to happen in turn 1. Of course, Mr. Pike, a little bit of an underdog in this, I should say, starting in P2.
Well, as we already had some of the drivers mention, I believe it was Kevin West in our chat, in our Discord chat, that he's hoping to get through turn 1 clean and nicely. We might see some incidents there, but yeah, like you also said, Jivud, are very, very hard to break out of the DRS window, but it's also very key to stay within that DRS train. Once you fall out of it, it is very hard to get back in, and if you fall out of it indefinitely, you're going to lose about 5, 6 tenths every single lap, and you just won't be fighting fighting for that race win anymore. So very key to stay within that, and that strategy-wise also means that you kind of have to play along with what your opponents do, because otherwise you just won't have any success for that whatsoever. In the meantime, we're loading in, so in about a minute from now, we'll get this race underway. Any more words from you, Jivadar, before we get going?
At the start of the race, just so you guys know, turn 1 is a full blind corner, especially when the pit stop come. I'll also say this, but when you come out the pits, you do not see the corner at all. You just have to guess where it is. And some incidents can happen there. Turn 1, lap 1, always chaos. You know, it's just an insanely tricky part. Everyone's gonna take it cautiously, I think. If someone decides to, send it, it could result in damage, which is why most people don't do that and just back out of moves. Because it's lap 1. You cannot win the race on lap 1, but you can certainly lose it. So we'll see what ultimately happens.
Yeah, I think we're definitely going to see some sends in turn 1, but yeah, that turn 1 as well. You go up the hill quite a bit. From TV cam, you don't see it as much, but as when you're on board with the driver, you see how much you're actually going up and how difficult it is to nail that first corner until you really get your braking points all the way nicely down together. Alongside that, turn 19 is also on this corner. It's very hard to see the apex, and as we've seen in qualifying, turn 12 very key, because it's easy to cut the corner quite a bit there, and not too difficult on the other hand to pick up track limits there. But on the other hand, go too wide a little bit, you'll pick up some track limits, and that will also play a key factor in the race here tonight. Do not pick up any penalties for that. 3 warnings will mean 3 seconds, and once you get them, you're pretty much out of contention for a race win.
Yeah, Sector 1 is ridiculously difficult in the race to make 28 times and not get a penalty. Oh, it's starting. 5 line, and away we go. Herman, little bit of a wheel spin. Mr. Pike down inside, and he takes the lead. What has happened to Herman? Absolutely tremendously bad start. Turn 1 losing 3 places already. Dennis in P2, Miska in P3 through the F section now. They're going 3 wide behind. Oh my, what am I saying?
A couple of drivers going off the course there, and I think both of the Racing Bulls have been involved with that a little bit, but does seem like not too much damage has happened as a result. But there we see a driver go all the way left, and that's a yellow flag. That was Gregory Russell. I believe he came together with that McLaren of Marvin Golm, who in the meantime has gone further up ahead. But yeah, Gregory Russell missing quite a bit of his front wing, and that is in the lead.
Yep. Well, they're fighting, and I believe Mr. Pike will actually keep the lead for now, but they are fighting still. Never mind, Dennis, what a switchback. Wow. And he takes the lead. Of course, it's lap 1, so it doesn't really matter that much, but it's good to have. It's a confidence boost. Strategy-wise, Kevin Wust, Jan Schwerdlik, and Scenario 7 are the only 3 runners of the field on the medium, so we'll see how they manage to progress in these early stages of the race, because obviously the mediums wear out, and the crossover is about lap 7, I believe, somewhere around that. But everyone else on the hard, normal strategy. Yeah, Gregory really unlucky with the start, and I think that would be his race over if there isn't a safety car. Which rarely happens in WOR, I believe. Oh, well, not so rarely, but, Well,
I think it also depends on the track a little bit. This is not a track where the safety car does come out too much, because the walls in most instances are quite far away, unless, of course, the incident happens in the inner wall of turn 20. But aside from that, safety car seemingly more unlikely than we have on other tracks. Next week, on the other hand, on Singapore, I think it's pretty much guaranteed that we're going to see a safety car there. And see in the background, I think it was Jack Humphreys who had a little bit of wheel spin there. But here we go then. Down the inside comes Mr. Pike, and he overtakes Dennis Langrock to take that race lead back. As for Herman, who started on pole, still stuck in P4 for now, but really does not have to worry too much about that either, as we have, in the meantime, Ben Shawley battling it out with Jack Humphries in scenario 7, and the drivers will have to take evasive action there not to run into each other. They keep it clean for now. It's a good run on the inside for Ben Shawley, but a lot of wheel spin there, and that's going to cost him a position to scenario 7, but he does stay ahead of Jack Humphries.
There's such a big fight, and I don't understand this. They're already lost DRS, they're already 2 seconds down, and I believe Jack got wing damage from that.
Well, let's see if we can find that out. Jack is currently in the pit lane, and they are indeed standing there. He's missing a front wing end plate, but he's not missing or changing his front wing at all, so that might have been a mistake. Ben Shawley, in the meantime, has got a 3-second time penalty for track limits, and Jack, he has retired from the session. Understandably so, because he'd had to take another pit stop without that changed front wing. On the other hand, Gregory Russell is still driving out there on track, hoping he'll get a bit more fortunate and see a safety car later down the line. Let's see, we currently have top 11 within one DRS window. Scenario 7 has fallen out, that he leads that second DRS strain all the way from P12 to 18. So it looks like we're already starting to narrow down the drivers that could potentially go for a race win, as Dennis Langrock goes with the overtake on Mr. Pike once more. And I believe Elku, one of the drivers that you picked for a potential podium, has now made his way past Stephen Vassell, went a little bit too deep into turn 12, and is now P5.
Yeah, great progress from Elku so far on the hards. Both NLRs so far are not actually using their battery and utilizing it. They're just swapping around and just saving that ERS when they need it. And it's not time to attack yet. It's lap 3. It's a long strategy game up ahead. Everyone's just gonna be saving tires at this point. It's not really gonna be a point in the race where you can win the race already.
Oh, and there we go, our second retiree of the night. Marvin Goals decided to retire it into the pit lane. Went for a very early pit stop. Got another 10-second time penalty for speeding in a pit lane. And he's decided to call it quits. So, only in lap 4, we've already lost quite a few drivers there, Vidar.
Hopefully we don't keep it up at that pace, because we wouldn't have finishers, but it's okay.
Meantime, Gregory Russell,
fastest lap of the race.
Fastest lap of the race indeed. He is on those fresher medium tires as Ben Shawley picks up yet another time penalty for track limits. His second penalty that he's gotten. Yet we're only on lap 4, so not the best of sorts for him either, and that will keep him potentially out of point scores today. Let's in the meantime go on board with Kevin West, who pulls alongside a Ferrari of Giovanni Gialliotto, and he overtakes. He is the top front runner on those mediums, and he will need to make good use out of them if he wants to move up a little bit further up the field here. I think he can gain a couple more positions here, but in a few laps' time, his mediums will start to deteriorate, and then it will give the advantage over to the hard runners.
Jan also got past Giovanni through into, I believe it's turn 15. He went down inside, and it's pretty good so far. Giovanni goes wide. Hopefully he doesn't pick up a track limit warning. Nicolin also gets past him, so that is really not something you would want to see from Giovanni. He's lost 3 places in the span of 1 lap, and Ben is gonna retire from the race.
Yeah.
We've lost another one. At this rate, I don't think we would have finishes. So hopefully, no more incidents that can ruin your race.
Well,
Stephen Vassell got 3 seconds on lap 5 already. That is interesting.
In the meantime, Nicolino is getting awfully close to the back of Jans Verlick's Red Bull. He's about a 10th away, and he's starting to look to see if he can make a move already, but he knows he's best off waiting for that long back straight. Does not get the best sort of exit, but he's close enough to hopefully go for an overtake there, using the overtake that he has to his advantage, and he's now going to go for it. Down the inside he goes. He will need to outbrake Jan quite significantly here, but a good break. And the turn, and it's Stephen Vassell who spins out in turn 12, so that's 2 positions gained for Nicolino, but hard break for Stephen, who drops down to P11.
Yeah, there's a, oh my goodness, and that's Giovanni gone as well. Interesting. I guess with the hards you have a lot less grip than you would think at this rate, so that's kind of why. Of course, setups are not still fully refined for some people. You still do need to take a lot of time to refine. This game, it's really setup dependent. If you don't have the perfect setup, the game will feel awful. You need to really have a good setup to actually be quick in the top 7, something like that. And that is Giovanni boxing. He's got wing damage as well from that.
It seems like he is continuing for the time being, but we're currently watching Elku's in P5, but he's fallen outside the DRS window for Polyakov up ahead, and that could spark disaster for Elku if he wants to go for a potential podium here tonight, and he's immediately under pressure by Joel Lindstrom, who's just behind him. Let's go on board with Joel. He's close enough to mount an overtake there, and yeah, with Elku being so far away, there's no way for him to defend that. And Joel goes by to P6, and up ahead, it's actually Mr. Pike who retakes the race lead from Dennis Langrock.
Yeah, I mean, in the lead, they're just swapping around. They don't need to actually fight. They've already broken the DRS from P5, and it's gonna be really difficult for Joel to actually get back in. That does not help as well. But
look at Miska.
Oh my, what a move. Around the outside, I believe.
That was around the outside indeed of the triple right-hander. Got a better exit heading into those sets of corners, and he's now pulling alongside Mr. Pike, so it's 2 drivers in the span of just about 15 seconds. And Miska is now in the race lead, as in the meantime Dennis Langrock really has to watch out behind. But all this fighting means that Joel Lindstrom has managed to cut down that gap onto Herman Polyakov, as Charles Sutton now picks up a time penalty for speeding in the pit lane, and he also retires. So we've lost 4 drivers at the start of lap 7. 2 more drivers who have gone for very early pit stops and surely have to make another one down the line. They are still hoping for a safety car later on this session, but so far it's really been a battlefield.
Yeah, Kota is usually a battle of warriors who can not get a 3-second time penalty at the end of the race. We'll see, because people are already getting 2 seconds, but obviously those are at the bottom 10, not the leaders. So yeah, but the fighting definitely helped Joel. That he's blessed to have them fight, otherwise it would have been a disaster. But you know, it's pretty good so far. Everyone is fighting at the front for whatever reason, but I guess they don't have anything to lose. You know, they're leading. Why not? Let's have some fun.
Yeah, we just saw as we were watching Nicolino that the drivers both behind and in front of him, so Kevin, West, and Elku, had a little bit of a step out with their cars, and that allows Nicolino now to get awfully close to the back of that kick Sauber. Let's see if he can get past them on the start-finish straight, but looks like Elku is using his battery wisely to defend from that and not allowing Nicolino to get too close, although in the braking zone he does get awfully near to the back of his car. But further up the line, Miska, who was in P1 with the DRS zones, has dropped down a little bit once again, but he definitely does have the pace. And Herman Polyakov, who has been sleeping at least a little bit, staying behind closely, is now starting to pick up the pace a little bit, and I think he wants to go for a few overtakes here.
Yeah, the gaps at the front are so close, like 2 tenths between everyone. And whoever has more DRS on this particular lap will obviously get past if they want to. But yeah, Herman on only 40% ERS compared to the leaders. Mr. Pike, usually he uses a lot of ERS, and that's exactly what I'm saying. He's on 30%. Obviously, to use ERS.
Look at that further up ahead.
Keep
Miska
on
was getting very close to Mr. Pike, but has lost a little bit the entrance of that triple right-hander. I'm currently looking at all these sector times. There's only a few drivers that are starting to get within 3/10 of one another. For the other drivers, the gaps are a little bit more, but let's actually move over to Meow, who has... Well, he's now staying ahead of Scenario 7, who went for an early pit lane, also got speeding in the pit lane. He did start on the mediums, though, so that might be his early pit stop to go on to the hards. But that 10-second time penalty definitely is not going to work out in his favor, but it looks like he's at least continuing on his run and not DNFing, so that is well done for him. I appreciate the effort on his behalf. In the meantime, though, Takubi is getting close to the rear of El Rey Guiri, fighting for P12, but that gap, look at that, was almost 2/10s, but Takubi being very fast there to the first bit of the second sector, and he's now going to line himself up nicely, because the gap to Meow P11 is 2.8 seconds, so there will be no chance for El Rey Guiri to defend from Takubi behind. So here we go then, the McLaren driver starting to line it up nicely. Scenario 7 gets a time penalty for track limits, and here we go, side by side, alongside, and Takubi moves up into P12. As further up ahead, Dennis Langrock and Miska Heikkila are having a good fight as well, with Ray Guiri now picking up a 3-second time penalty for track limits.
Yeah, he's definitely felt the pressure there, but it's okay, I guess. It's really difficult to go 28 laps without getting 3 track limit warnings, obviously, so it's one of the most difficult tracks when it comes to track limits, just because there's so many corners where you can just go slightly over the white line and pick up an invalidation in quali, and obviously a track limit warning in a race. And you only get 2 of those before the third one, which is a 3-second time penalty.
I had a little spin on the start-finish straight for Jens Verling, and it looks like he's lost the front wing end blade as well. Scenario 7 gets another penalty for speeding in the pit lane. He is going to retire. That will be our 5th retiree of the evening. But for Jan, we might see a similar thing here. He's lost quite a bit there. We'll have to go for fairly early pit stop and also the front wing damage. Let's hope he does not get speeding in the pit lane either, because that would really put him out of contention completely if he even wants to get points. Because at the rate we're seeing drivers DNF, even the drivers that are now P14, 15, they still have a decent shot at getting points later on down the wire, as more and more drivers are going to drop out of the race. As Mr. Pike, in the meantime, has once again retaken the race lead. But this is something we're going to see a lot. We'll see the race lead swap over quite a bit because of that DRS effect. And we're going to have to keep an eye on the drivers that are within that DRS window and that do not have any time penalties. And that for now is our top 6. So that's Mr. Pike, Dennis Langrock, Miska Heikkila, Herman Polyakov, Joel Lindstrom, and finally Nick Galino in P6.
Yeah, whoever is a race merchant is definitely feeling it right now. Nicolin, particularly great in the races. I know him. I know that he's an absolute beast in the race. Joel as well. Up 4 places, started 9th, up to P5. And there's still more for grabs. Nicolin started 8th, currently 6th. So far it's been great for everyone at the front, apart from Herman, who got an absolute stinker of a start and hasn't really been able to recover since. And there we go. 6th retirement now of the race.
Yeah, I'm starting to notice quite a few drivers are getting speeding in the pit lane. I think out of the drivers that have retired, I think it was only one of them that did not get speeding in the pit lane. So it shows that the drivers do really need to slow down, unless, of course, it's been done on purpose. But it's something that all the other drivers will need to watch out for once we're going to see the pit stops happen. We also saw a lovely late send by Meow earlier on into turn 1 on Kevin West. He got that overtake done. He is now in P9, and he will be lining up Steven Vasso, as he's currently still behind, but might be able to make a move happen later on down the wire. As Miska Heikkila and Herman Polyakov are now really starting to fight with each other. It's forcing Miska to go for some other lines, and that once again allows Herman to get much closer. Let's go on board with the Red Bull driver as he approaches turn 19 and 20. as he goes very carefully through turn 19, looking to make sure that he doesn't pick up any track limits whatsoever. It's going to cost him a little bit of time to Miska up ahead, and Miska on the other end is now closer than Herman is to him, and Miska is now 3/10 away only from Mr. Pike, but also for him not going for an overtake as Herman gets very close with that braking onto the back of that Aston Martin. Keeps it nice and clear for now, but does need to watch out that he doesn't slam into the rear of the driver up ahead. Further down the line then, Meow, still very close to Steven Vassell, but even in that next DRSO, unable to clear him.
Yeah, the DRS is very powerful, so he should be able to slingshot back into the DRS of the top 7 train, but it's half a second gap. That is quite big, but he has got a full battery, so he can pull it off. It would take a bit of effort, but definitely possible. I don't know what Herman trying to go up the inside of his team. Well, he's not his teammate. Should I call Miska and Herman teammates because they're both in NLR? I don't know if that's actually clarified as teammates because they are part of the same team.
No, we would not classify it as teammates. They are in the same team, indeed, to make it more confusing. But they're not teammates. As for Miska, he is driving in the Aston, and for Herman, of course, he is driving that Red Bull. So they are in the same team or organization, but are not teammates as it comes to driving here on the grid, as we saw Miska having quite a few moments there. It's quite a surprise he managed to keep that in a straight line and also still able to keep that car ahead of Herman. But really Herman is now starting to amp up the pace a bit, and I think it's only a matter of time before he's going to fly past Miska and take over P3.
I'm looking at the ERS management, and Herman is just using very much unnecessary ERS. He hasn't been over 80% on the ERS for pretty much since lap 2, I believe. He's just been constantly using on the exits, and he hasn't actually gained anything from it. That's the thing. But Miska now trying to go up the inside of Mr. Pike. Pike goes defensive. Down inside of Dennis.
It was a very late move from Miska onto Dennis Langrock, but he's now... Well, he's on the outside, but that will now turn into the inside. He is going to go for a late send there. They will go side by side. Need to keep it on track with each other. Now the inside goes back to Dennis Langrock. It's a lovely fight that we're seeing here. And it looks like Miska will have to yield.
Yeah, you don't really want to risk going around on the outside there. It's just simply not worth it. Oh, Dennis boxing! Dennis going for a very, very early stop. He's gonna have to do more laps on the mediums than on the hards. That is gonna be a very, very big stretch on the medium, but I guess he didn't feel that great on the hards. So he's called it into the box.
In the meantime, we also got a yellow flag for Gregory Russell in Sector 3. So it looks like he had a little moment. But the disadvantage for Dennis Langrock as well is because he does go so early. Not only will his tires be completely gone at the end of the session, he does not have that DRS advantage the other drivers will have that are going to stop in a couple laps' time, because this might trigger an early pit stop from the other drivers, but I wonder if it really will, because we are now almost at half race distance. Switching from the hards to the mediums is quite early. I would rather expect it more from lap 16 onwards, so he's quite a few laps earlier, Dennis. Herman Polyakov now has finally gone round Miska, so he is now in P2, but they're still fighting for it. Side by side they go once more. This time Herman has an easy inside. Make sure that Miska cannot cut back. He won't be able to cut back. And behind, Joe Lindstrom is also starting to get closer. But look at that, Mr. Pike has now gone more than a second over Herman Polyakov. This is great news for Mr. Pike, and he surely needs to continue now. That's a big track limit. And it looks like Miska's in. Miska's in.
Yep, he's in. Elko as well. And oh my goodness, it's disaster for both. They both got 10 seconds. GG's for the 2 races. They are not getting points with that one. How did they both manage to get 10 seconds? They were right behind each other. I guess Elko just followed whatever Miska did. Unfortunately, that wasn't exactly what should have happened. But Dennis, so far, great pace. He's already gained 2.5 seconds to the leading train. I mean, it's not really a leading train anymore. It's more like Mr. Pike.
Yeah, it looks like Mr. Pike will be the main competitor for him. That undercut's already proven to be quite powerful. 3-second gap to Miska, who stopped just 1 lap later, despite them being battling for at least podiums earlier on before the first pit stop sequences. Here we see down the inside a move from Joel Lindstrom onto the Red Bull of Herman Polyakov. He still stays around the inside, and he's going to keep that Red Bull just up ahead, but a little slide there will allow Joel to at least come back just a little bit. But Herman does manage to fight him off. If not, here comes Joel round the outside. Can he keep it in front of Herman? Side by side they go. This is the moment where he should yield. And indeed, the shorter line proves to be the better line as Herman stays up ahead. And now it's Herman and Joel who go into the pit lane, followed by Nicolino.
And Meow. Everyone is in apart from Mr. Pike. He's feeling great on those hards. Just go long, have the tire advantage for the end of the race. Yeah, Dennis, he's not gonna get DRS on this lap, I think, from Tehubi, which definitely would be appreciated, but I don't think it will be enough to close it down the first sector.
Let's see how much he can push it as Giovanni gets a 3-second time penalty for track limits. Langrock is starting to move close as we have a yellow in sector 2. That's Stephen Vassell! Stephen Vassell is out. We have a safety car! We have a safety car, and this could potentially be good news for the drivers that have to stop early. And for Gregory Russell, this is a godsend from heaven because he's now being propelled back, right back into this race. Mr. Pike can make a free pit stop. He will likely stay ahead. And for Takubi, well, he's still going to be at the back of this queue. But now we have to see how much of a factor those time penalties are going to be. Because here we have the time penalties. 3 seconds for Takubi, 10 for Miska. He might be able to get rid of that now in the pit lane, so it's good. For Elku can also get rid of 10. For Giovanni and Elrigria, those 3 seconds are going to stand. But that incident came pretty much out of nowhere. And it's going to help Mr. Pike a lot. And for Dennis, that strategy that he just had, that could have gifted him the race win there, has now been thrown out of the window. And he'll have to try for it all over again.
Yeah, I mean, that's the risk that you... And Mr.
Oh, no!
I swear the pit lane is not that difficult. Considering there's a safety car and you leading, why not take it safe?
Well, I think he's going to take an extra pit stop now. He's got that time penalty. He knows he needs to take an extra pit stop.
Everyone
might
is
as well
gonna
go
box. Yeah, everyone's gonna box. Just pick.
Oh, Herman gets a time penalty for speeding in a pit lane as well. So that's another 10 seconds out for him. He's surely going to take another pit stop as a result. Will just mean that he's going to drop a few more positions, so not the end of the world for him. A few drivers have continued. Nicolino, Joel Lindstrom, and Meow. And I think Elray Guiri's also continued, but they were only on 1 lap old tires. Dennis Langrock actually has continued as well, so he stays ahead of Mr. Pike. But whether this is the best strategy, I am not sure, because he is going to be struggling towards the end of the race.
I'm gonna call it straight up here. I think Nicolin can win this now. He's in P3, he's already gained 5 places, he's gonna gain 1 on Mr. Pike, and he'll be with a tire advantage compared to Dennis. I believe Nicolin can win this. The Evershow glazing will never stop. I am a part of the team, of course.
Let's So there's still 2 drivers out there with a 10-second time penalty. Surely they will come in at the end of this lap, so that will mean Mr. Pike and Herman are yet to come in. And they are going to get back on the field, whether in P11 and 12 or 12 and 13, if Gregory Russell can't cut down that gap before, but he might be able to cut down a little bit on that. For Gregory, at least, this is good news, because after the incidents that he's had early on the race, he's now fully back in the fight. And the drivers up ahead, there's 4 drivers with 3 seconds. So he will virtually be ahead of them, and that means he's now virtually within the points as soon as the safety car is going to resume, which will likely be at the end of lap 18. So, godsend for Gregory. For the other drivers, at least those without the penalties, not so great. I think for Dennis, it's really going to hurt his chances for a race win here tonight.
I mean, I guess in a sense the safety car does help him, because instead of doing like 2-3 extra laps, now he's brought to the normal window of laps that the mediums should be taking. So that's a positive. Meow is what has had an absolute banger of a race though. 10 places up. He's outside the top 2, but he's in P4. He's gained 10 places. He started 14th and just avoided all the chaos up ahead that happened. Ate some popcorn, watched everyone fight, and just got swiftly past. And maybe he definitely did get helped up a bit by the safety car, but it's okay.
Well, it helps him just a tad bit, and if we look at tire life, his tires will just be a little bit older than the drivers around him. But the good thing that Meow has is that the 2 drivers behind him are both on 3-second time penalties, so won't have to worry about them too much. He will have to worry, though, about the drivers up ahead. And out of them, 1 driver has 2 lap older mediums than he does himself. And once the safety car goes into that pit lane, we've got about 10 laps remaining out of the 28 that we fully need to do. So for Dennis Langrock, this is going to turn into a very, very long race. But yeah, once again, that safety car, Juvenard, really came out of nowhere.
Yeah, I didn't even see what happened to Fassel to retire. I didn't even see where he retired. I just straight up saw a safety car. I was like, oh hey, well that helps.
Well, the interesting thing was, he was driving in P2. I'm not sure if he was fighting with the driver behind him, but up ahead, Mr. Pike was about 3 seconds clear, so he couldn't have slammed into the back of him. So I think it was a driver error. We will have to get a confirmation from that in our Discord chat before we know for sure. But regardless of that, we've just gotten the notification safety car in this lap, which means that in a moment, which is now already, Dennis Langrock will be dictating the pace, and we are going to resume as further behind. Mr. Pike and Herman Polyakov have managed to get back within the queue. So now with 13 drivers, and when we cross the start-finish line, 9 laps left to go, we will be fighting all the way down to the wire. No further pit stops. Hopefully not too many more penalties. And just all the way through, fighting for a race win.
Yeah, we'll see when Dennis goes. He's went. Let's see how good of a restart has Nicolin got. He's half-second back. It's not been as great of a restart, but it's so far looking good. You know, just keeping the DRS and you'd be able to keep up. And of course, the visuals on this game are beautiful. We've still got the safety car screen, right?
Yeah, we do still have that in our view. Does not matter too much as Herman Polyakov and Mr. Pike already fighting tooth and nail as Mr. Pike just managed to stay ahead of Herman. And these two know that they have got more pace than quite a few drivers just up ahead, but they will need to clear them. And with fresher tires, should hopefully not be too much of an issue for them, but they will need to dispatch them quickly as Herman now picks up a 3-second time penalty, and that will surely destroy his chances of getting a potential race win here tonight, as Kevin West is the next driver to pick up a penalty. So out of the 13 drivers still in contention, 6 of them currently on track limit penalties.
Yeah, keep in mind there are also 9 laps remaining as well, so even more penalties are to come. I told you it's a really difficult circuit to nail without getting warnings, and it's all in that Sector 1 and S section, and turn 19 and 20. Those are the trickiest corners to nail without actually getting a warning. Nicolino really close to the back of Dennis, and he's looking great. 2-lap fresher tires. I believe he would not go for that move yet, but yeah, those 2-lap on the mediums are definitely feeling. Dennis is definitely feeling the wear now. I mean, he's on like 15% medium, I say, compared to the 5% wear that Nicolin has. It's rough calculations, but it should be pretty close. I know what the wear is usually. DRS enabled, and now we will see who's gonna go for the move. El Rey, very close to the back of Tehubi, up towards turn 12. Never mind, that's turn 11. I believe it's turn 11. Yeah, it is. Alright.
Or here we go then, a swap for the race lead as Nicolino takes over the race lead from Dennis Langworth. First time that he's been leading the race, and he's been having quite a belter of a race so far. If we look at positions gained, he's gained 7 positions, 6 positions gained for Joel Lindstrom, and both 10 gained for Meow and Takubi. And for Reguiri, he's gained 11, but he's still on penalties. For Miska, he has lost 5 positions, but 4 drivers up ahead have penalties, so he's technically only lost 1 there. And for Mr. Pike and Gregory Russell, they're going to get a little bit more as Nicolino in the race lead gets a 3-second time penalty for track limits. That's heartbreak for the Alpine driver, and that puts Dennis Langrock back in contention. And for Dennis, actually, this is great news, because if he can keep it in P2, he only needs to try and overtake Nicolino on the final lap, and then he won't have to worry too much of that Ferrari from Joel Lindstrom just behind. So heartbreak for Nicolino, but for Dennis Langrock might be the saving grace after that safety car really hampered his chances tonight.
Yeah, it's a gift from heaven for Dennis, but there's still a long way in the race. Whoever can finish without getting a penalty will massively benefit. You know, Mr. Pike definitely, with the 10 seconds being in the pit lane, pretty much ruined his race. But even with the penalties, he'll still finish around P7, P6, which is still great points, obviously, for the start of the season. Dennis gets passed for the lead again. Meow and Joel are definitely gonna look to capitalize on the battle for the lead, though. Or maybe just... Oh, he's trying to go around the outside. Meow. Is he gonna be able to make that stick? Not quite. Not the cleanest bit of racing there, but it's okay.
Oh, he is. He's got it.
Yeah, he's got him. Up the inside. And that is Meow absolutely spot on with the overtaking. And if he manages to get past Nicolin on track, it's a TTM 1-2 and they can control this, which is very, very nice for them.
That was a very late send from Takubi down the inside. Ooh. Wanted to get past Joel, but was not able to do so. And on the other hand, now Reguiri has now managed to get past him, so great move by him. As indeed, as you mentioned for Meow, he's now starting to get closer up ahead, and it will be a Williams 1-2 in a moment if he managed to get Nicolino out of the way. But I think Nicolino will be able to get past Dennis Langrock once more in a moment. Further down the line, we see that Herman Polyakov and Mr. Pike are a little bit stuck, with Gregory Russell falling out of the race. He's now in P13, as Takubi and Kevin West are now starting to fight for P6. And that might open up the door for Miska Haikala, currently in P7, but he's still got quite a bit of gain with the penalties up ahead.
Yeah, obviously, whoever doesn't have 3 seconds will massively benefit from it, especially with the safety car that actually kept the field close to each other. Whoever has just needs to really calculate the gaps now. But considering everyone is sort of in a DRS trend, I don't think having 3 seconds would be savable. Like, everyone is in a DRS train, apart from Gregory, who still fell out of the DRS, unfortunately. But as long as he doesn't have a penalty, he'll have a chance for points.
Surely will. As we had just a great fight with Miska and Elku, who went side by side not only through the triple right-hander, but then also side by side through turn 19, a turn where you really can't go side by side, but they did. They kept it clean, and for Elku meant that he managed to get the overtake done onto Miska, who has now been demoted back onto P9. As further up ahead, the gap to Nicolino increased just a little bit, but it still stays around the half-second mark, and that means for Dennis Langrock, it's still good enough for him to get back at him, retake that race lead, at least for now, as he does cut turn 11 quite a bit. That must be at least a warning flag, but he does not have a penalty so far, so that's good news for him. But is Dennis now going to go for the move, or is he going to wait? We see the blinking, the tire. He does not have a lot of overtake left, and he's actually opted to stay behind Nicolino. That might help Nicolino out in turn, because he has better tire life. For Dennis Langrock, those tires are going to start to fade. And if Nicolino can manage to pull away, he could put himself in a great position despite having that 3-second time penalty.
Yeah, I mean, Nicolino is more so trying to capitalize on everyone else that already has a penalty, because whoever doesn't have a penalty will pretty much be automatically ahead of him. Tehubi gets another 3 seconds, which definitely does not help him in any way. But Meow so far has been absolutely great. 11 places gained, and he's looking to take P2 and provisional P1, obviously, with the Nicholas penalty. And he could be winning this race from 14th on the grid, which would be an absolute insane comeback. There's something we didn't expect, both, in our predictions, though.
Yeah,
My predictions are pretty much spot on so far with Dennis, but
aside from Dennis, we're indeed quite far off, but we might still see some things change, because if we look at Mr. Pike, he's been able to make his way up a little bit more, has managed to gain 2 positions in a previous lap, and he's now starting, well, at least he needs to get past Miska if he wants to get more positions gained, because then there's a whole plethora of drivers who have time penalties. So Mr. Pike, despite him being P10 on the grid now, after penalties applied, he will be on P5. So Miska is a car that he needs to clear now, as we see his teammate really struggling to keep the car on track. But that opens up the door for Mr. Pike, who goes with a full send there, does push that Aston Martin very, very wide. He has managed to get Miska clear, but that was not the cleanest of moves. And behind, Giovanni has gotten a time penalty for track limits once more. So not the best sorts of moves for Mr. Pike, but he's gone past. And we're now going to enter lap 25 already. No, yeah, there we go. Lap 25 of 28. 4 laps remain. And Dennis Langrock has retaken the race lead for now, as Nicolino just stays behind. And Meow really needs to play this out nicely, because if he can play it out well, he might be able to steal that win away.
yeah, fireworks are gonna start to appear in the top 4, because oh my god, El Rey going around the outside, maybe? What a move! Through the S section, and he's gotten past Joel. Tehubi also gets past him. That is really, really not good for Joel. I don't know what happened there, but he got overtaken by 2 people that already have 3 seconds, so it's pretty much useless for them to get past him on track. But I don't know, maybe someone can get a 3-second remove, for example, if they got pushed wide and got a warning or something.
Oh.
Miska gets 3 seconds, so yeah, that is not looking great for him.
Yeah, and on the other hand, Joel has dropped quite a bit, and that has now seen Mr. Pike move up another few positions. He's now up in P7, and that's a potential podium. 4 drivers up ahead have a penalty, so Mr. Pike, where it looked like after he got the 10-second time penalty for speeding in a pit lane, that his hopes were gone, he has now propelled himself back into the race. So if he can keep that pace going, he might be able to still fight for more. Currently in P7, but first needs to get past his teammate Elku, who's in P6. As further up ahead, Nicolino has gotten the race lead once more, but Dennis Langrock is really starting to monitor this race nicely. The only driver he really needs to watch out for now is Meow, but he will have DRS this lap, and I think he will use it wisely to get past Nicolino once more. Oh no, that's penalty! Mr. Pike's gotten a penalty! There's only 4 drivers without a penalty. Gregory Russell has fallen out of contention, so that propels Joe Lindstrom back into podium position despite it being P8. That's crazy.
Yeah. Told you this track is brutal on track limits. If you know, I managed to get a race with no warnings, so I guess I'm kind of like the TTM Academy. Obviously, I was actually in TTM back in F1. Oh my goodness, Meow almost spins. Definitely forgot to change his brake bias there, but he has fallen back a bit with that. But it's still fighting at the front. So.
Oh, that's big contact, and that is a crash out for Takubi. He made contact with the Kick Sauber drivers. I believe it was Mr. Pi going for a very late move. And then it was contact with either him or Elku, and that sent him into the wall. So that's race over for Takubi. He is retired from the session, knows he won't be picking up any more points. Gregory Russell, because of all this craziness, has gotten back within 3 seconds of Giovanni Galiotto. And now I'm curious, do many more drivers have penalties? Giovanni's got 6 seconds, so Gregory's clear of him. But unless Herman is going to pick up another penalty, it won't be any points for Gregory Russell. We still have 2 laps left to go. Further up ahead, Nicolino and Meow are close, but Meow really needs to make sure now that he ends up in P2. He will have the tire advantage over Dennis Langrock, but he won't be able to get that race win if he stays put where he is. And behind El Reguiri is also getting very close. Shirley is heating up now. 2 laps to go, but this is the place where you want to put yourself in the best possible opportunity for the final lap.
Yeah, and you obviously don't want to use too much battery because you want to have as much as possible for the last lap. Meow, is he gonna try and go for the move on Dennis? No. Nicolino gets past and he's through into P1. Nicolino feels pretty confident with that. Of course, he's got a full battery to work with, so that is definitely helpful. Oh my, Meow makes slight contact with Dennis, and that is definitely not gonna help them.
Oh, big moment. Reguiri has been put sideways. That was contact with one of the Kick Sours. I think that was Mr. Pike, who now goes off fully of the track together with Joel Lindstrom. It's really starting to kick off, and we haven't even gone to the final lap, but some sends from Mr. Pike, questionable sends, have now caused 2 drivers to spin and 1 to DNF, as now we see up ahead Elku having a massive moment there, and Mr. Pike just staying ahead of Kevin West. But we quickly have to go back to the battle for the lead, because Nicolino needs to hold off Dennis Langrock and Meow. But Nicolino's got a penalty for Dennis Langrock and Meow. This next sector, this next DRS zone is going to be key.
Yeah, and crucial, Nicolino here goes wide, which definitely will not help him. Dennis, though, has got a full battery to work with compared to Meow.
Oh, there was
DRS
contact.
games are starting to play. Let's see who's gonna be able to get the upper edge going into the last sector. Meow still has more battery.
Oh, he wants to go around the outside. Ooh, he does try to go around the outside. Knows he has to yield. He will stay ahead just for now as Elku's starting to put himself back into the fight. But looks like Dennis Langrock has really managed this race nicely, because it doesn't look like Meow is going to be able to overtake him. Despite that early pit stop, despite the safety car coming in at one of the worst possible moments, on 14 lap bolt mediums, he's managed to hold them off. And with 1 corner to go, he surely won't throw it away, and he won't. And it's a race win for Dennis Langrock, 2nd place to Meow. And with all the penalties applied, Joel Lindstrom ends up in P3. But from Dennis Langrock, I have to say, a masterclass of controlling. Because with that tire disadvantage, still being also strong, holding off your teammate, that's just executed to perfection.
Yeah, both TTMs are absolutely flawless. Just kept it clean, kept it nicely within track limits, and yeah, Meow from P14 all the way up to P2. Dennis wins the race, clear of his teammate, and then surprisingly, the driver who finished in P8 on track, I believe it was P8 on track, is in P3. Great race for everyone who didn't get 3 seconds. And also, underrated driver. Gregory Russell actually got a point.
Oh, he did.
Hey, no way.
Oh, that was because the DNF from Takubi. Takubi DNF'd. El Riguiri actually got more penalties, or he was pushed wide. And now Gregory Russell still picks up points, and that just shows that staying in the race really does matter a lot. But we have to give a big shout out to Meow. Started on P14 of the grid, and he finishes in second place. Great work by the Williams driver. That's a 1-2 for Williams. But yeah, once again, Dennis Langrock, definitely the driver that managed to contain that the best. Went for the offset strategy, made it work despite the safety car, and he picks up the most points here tonight. But what a race we have seen. A lot of action, a lot of overtakes, but I think, Jivodar, sadly as well, quite a bit to talk about for the stewards.
Yeah, I mean, obviously in the midfield, there was a lot of fighting, a lot of pushing off track. Well, let's see if anyone can get the penalty removed. You know, maybe maybe they got a warning, or they were pushed off. So stuff like this happens, especially on a track that is so tricky with track limits and fighting when it's that close. Obviously, the field, everyone has got insanely close pace. Whereas in qualifying, 3 tenths put you from P1 to P12. So it's just really, really difficult to manage the race without getting either a penalty or getting taken out. You know, stuff like it's racecraft. Whoever's got that has got that. Like both TTMs already showed that they're great in the race. You know, just keep it clean, nice and tidy, and you're gonna win. And that's clearly what happened tonight.
And I think something that we should watch out for as well, with all the incidents and track limits we've seen this week, that surely proves something for next
Oh,
week when we're
Singapore.
going to go to Singapore. But before we're going to talk more about the calendar, we're first going to move over to the interviews because I see our race winner waiting for us in the interview box. So let's quickly change to our interview overlay and let's move Dennis Langrog in for the first interviews for tonight.
Hello, Pookie.
Hello.
And there we go then, welcoming the race winner, the first race here in season 19, Dennis Langrock.
Hello. Great to be back on the podium.
Great to be
On the
back on the
top
podium
step,
indeed,
podium.
on the top step indeed, but also after a race that I don't think went completely according to plan. You went for the offset strategy, you went for a very early pit stop. Was this planned?
Yes, of course it was planned because the kick Sauber was every time in front of me and I was for real much faster than him that I decided to pit earlier and that went very well. I was, I think, 3 seconds off and then a safety car came and it was a little bit unlucky. So if no safety car came, it will be a very good win. So easy win. But yeah, we want for the viewers a little bit sausage.
Yeah,
You had to fight for that quite a bit more because of that safety car coming in, and you were fighting for the race win pretty much all the way through with Nicolino. But then, a couple of laps to go, you saw that he got a time penalty. Was this the moment where you were like, okay, now I'm pretty much surely to take it, or were you worried for Meow behind you?
Yeah, also from Yo, but I thought we were teammates. This is the reason we didn't fight that much. But the 3 seconds get often removed, so I just got 100% in there because maybe it will get removed or not. So get a safe P1.
Yeah, I don't know why so many people got speeding in the pit lane. Like, it's not that difficult.
Yeah, so many people. I was on my undercut and I saw all the time penalties, 10 seconds, 3 seconds. I
Yeah.
was thinking, what? What the
Yeah,
happened?
it's 80 kilometers. It's not 60. How did they speed up that much?
I don't
And
know
it's
what happened there.
Yeah, I have no idea. I'm beyond baffled. Like you literally going into the pits, taking a corner at like 120 kilometers. You barely have any time to accelerate. How did so many people got that pit lane?
So many
Uh,
people pitted at one time, and then some guys will want to go for overtake maybe, and then got 10 seconds.
I don't think anyone went for it. One guy sped, like Miska sped, and then Elko right behind him also followed him with the 10 seconds. I don't get it. But still, great race from both of you.
Yes.
Yeah, so this is indeed the perfect way for you to start off the season. After this, we still have 9 races remaining, so quite a bit to go. But if you have a little look at the calendar, which is your favorite one out?
Wait, I need to open the calendar first. My favorite will be Netherlands, I think.
Alright, that sounds very good.
Yeah.
Think the track also closest to you in proximity?
Yes, of course, and I've done TE qualifier there and practiced there very much. That's the reason.
Oh yeah, you definitely cooked that.
Thank you.
I swear you like PB'd in session.
Yeah, P1, yeah, that was a point 1, yeah. But today was no cooking in qualifying, of course not. A point 4 was horrible, but it was enough for P3, so.
Even the post-sitter said his lap was horrible, so.
Yeah, I think everyone bottled their quali laps, so I think I got 1 or 2 right laps, 1.
Yeah,
Completely
and then
pissed.
full send. And
Yeah.
always validate in the section. Always.
Yes, of course. That was tricky.
Alright, well, that at least rounds off the questions from my end. So before we were going to send you away, Dennis, any words from your end?
No, I just say GG's to everyone. Was good and fair racing, and thanks for commentating. You guys do a good job, and yeah, see you next week.
That sounds very good. Well, thank you very much for joining us in the commentary box, and once more, congratulations on your race win, Dennis. And now let's quickly move over to your teammate who finished out there in P2 to round off that Williams 1-2. Finishing in P2 was Meow, of course, so let's move him in. So here we have him then, teammates, not just in organization, but also on the track for Williams. So 1-2 for Williams, that's a second place for Meow, despite starting P14 on the grid.
Yeah, he definitely got helped a bit by all the 10-second penalties in the pits.
You hear me out?
Yeah, but
There we go.
Hi. Hey. My quality was very bad because I thought the race was at 9 p.m. and obviously I didn't practice because of this. So I went in with 0 laps. So my quality lap actually resembles that because it was very bad. I started P14, almost got killed, lap 1. Then I somehow fought my way back because the setup was very good, my pace was also very good. And the safety car also came in handy because I got into P5 or 4, I don't remember. And I made a move on Joel. And yeah, it was what DRS games after that. And yeah, I could have Dennis also to get his win. And yeah, I'm very happy with this result because I didn't expect it. It came out of nowhere.
It's a very good result indeed, and especially for the team, the best way to get possibly started. Were you at least trying to fight with Dennis there towards the end at all? Or did you decide, you know what, I've come from P14, let's just keep it together and let's just finish 1-2?
I didn't want to fight because I came from P14 and they started like P2 or I don't know where he started. So he deserved it. and I have reached my P2.
All right, very good. Let's see, Yuvadar, any questions from your end?
How did you manage to keep it so clean with everyone else up ahead?
The guys who were actually very respectful, very clean. It was only further behind that I almost died quite a few times.
Okay.
It was respectful all around.
From my end, it definitely looked a little bit dirty for some people, but that's racing.
Yeah, I need to say one thing. I don't understand what that kick guy done in
Oh yeah, he
sector 3.
definitely took out like 3 people.
He was doing DRS games in the middle of the race, but it's okay.
It's okay. I guess he got pissed because he got 10 seconds was leading. I'd be hacked off as well.
Despite what that reason might be, I think we'll definitely have some steward inquiries due to some incidents that we saw happening throughout the race. Had quite a few drivers retire. We had a lot of drivers as well getting those penalties in the pit lane. A lot of track limits as well. For the both of you, you didn't manage to pick up any penalties in that sort, so that is very, very nice to see. But was it hard, Meow, to keep it between the white lines?
It was because I had 2 warnings, but one could have been taken away because I got forced off. But yeah, it was very hard. I almost got a penalty quite a few times.
All right.
Tricky track.
Fair enough. Well, with that, let's round off the interviews for tonight. For you as well, congratulations on your P2, and for the two of you, congrats on your 1-2. The 1-2 for Williams and the 1-2 for TTM. And next week, when we head over to Singapore, I think we're going to have a real cruncher of a race coming up.
Yes.
Whoever survives that is getting
Drive to
points.
survive.
Yeah, literally drive to survive. Survival of the fittest, it will surely be next week. But of course, more about that when we resume next week. For everyone in the chat as well, just like for the drivers, do know that their Tier 4 has moved 1 hour earlier. So we're not starting at 8 p.m. British Standard Time, but rather at 7 p.m. British Standard Time. For us Europeans, that's 8 p.m. rather than 9 p.m. So just an hour sooner, and that will be throughout the rest of the season. So we're first going to have our first 6 races in succession. So we've now started on November 11th, and we'll go all the way through to December 16th when we go into Hungary. Then we have a couple of weeks off, 3 weeks to be precise, and then we resume with the final 4 races in January for China, Canada, Austria, and your season finale in Sao Paulo. And hopefully towards the end of the season, guys, we'll be seeing you fight that out for the title in season 19 here at PC Tier 4.
Yes.
One question, Dennis, how old are you?
I'm 16.
Damn, same. Bro, I swear, you look like 26. There's no
Yeah.
way.
I have 2 shards and yeah. No. Yeah, it's I don't know. I'm 26. It's crazy. 18 is okay, but 26. Okay. But thank you.
But just thank you. I don't think looking older than you actually are is a compliment, but sure.
Thank you for your follow.
Cheers. I mean, Williams driving with a Ferrari t-shirt, it's like...
It's criminal. But that's my new Formula 1 shirt, so I would wear it. But next time I will buy a Williams shirt.
At least it matches.
Or
with the
TTM
gear.
shirt.
Doing a
It's
little
better.
bit of Carlos Sainz here.
Yeah. The smooth operator.
Well, it definitely was a smooth operation for you tonight, and I think with that we're also, at least for the broadcast here, going to cut this off for tonight. So make sure to be back here next week when we resume this season 19 with round 2 in Singapore. We'll be back at 7 p.m. Standard British Time on November 18th. So from everyone here as well, hope you enjoyed it, and see you all again next week. Good night.